Welcome to Tabletop Titans and our Hobby Hangout. My name's Adrian, and today we're going to be talking about stencils, masking, and all that good tasty stuff that a lot of people don't know about, but it's a lot easier than you think. So I have lots of stuff, as you guys can see, to work with today. As always, I'm trying to bring in stuff that I'm working on and really use the techniques that I'm already planning on using to show you guys. There's nothing that's kind of just made up that's not going to get used. And so I have, of course, my 3 brand new Burnabombas that I've been putting together. I had a bunch of the parts, but ended up missing a few of the key things. So as a true orc player, I went ahead and did a bunch of conversion work with them. A lot of plastic card went into these. And I've only had one piece break off, so that's a pretty good start. So anyways, they were super fun to work on. And I decided I wanted them to be very close to my sort of Goff style of my color scheme. My orcs are, if you've seen them, they have a lot of orange, they have a lot of teal, and then some black and white as well. When I started them, they were kind of mostly orange, the most obnoxious color you can think of, and also highly inspired by the Goths. So before we get started, I just want to give you guys a sense of what I'm going for on these models today. So here we have good old Gaz. Love this model. It was so much fun to paint. And it's basically the black chipped armor. So we'll talk a bit about how to do some black today. And then the reason I really wanted to show him was I have these stencils running up his shoulders. We have that traditional Goff checker mark. And so on the Burnabombers, I wanted to go ahead and do a similar style where we have the black hull, and then we do these checkers. We'll get some orange in there, we'll get some blue in there. So super excited for that. So yeah, we'll do the majority of the work on the Burnabombers, I think. I have some details to do on my Megatrack scrap jets. I will never say that name right as long as I live. Who they're coming along, but I have a bit of other kind of masking to do on them, so I'm excited to work on that. And then we also have this little orc hut, just for a table that I'm working on right now. No paint on it yet whatsoever, and we're going to use this as our guinea pig to try some things out, do some stencil methods, and a lot of it I can just kind of cover over later on. So this will be a sort of testing ground.
We do terrain, Adrian?
I know, right?
I didn't know we did terrain.
Well, we still haven't really done the real orc table, so I've been playing around with a little bit. So we'll see. But yeah, how's everyone doing? Hans Yolo, good to see you back.
Man, it is hot today. I don't know about the rest of the world, but the Bay is hot.
The Bay is super, super hot. Yeah,
Feels like summer.
It's nice. It definitely feels like a summer day. So if you see me sweating in here, if I pass out, it's either from the airbrush fumes or it's from just the heat in here. So yeah, pull up a project. Let us know what you guys are working on, and we'll go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, the main topic of the day is not only stenciling, but masking techniques in general. And so there's a couple ways that you can go about masking things just in general. So for example, the first thing I want to start talking about is this idea of stencil design and having an inverted image versus the actual image itself. So for example, let's see how well I can show this on the zoomed up screen. So this is actually a little orc stencil that I have. I've cut this myself, and this is basically the actual shape that I want to show, right? However, because of the way that stencils work, this actually becomes an inverted stencil of what I'm actually trying to create. And what I mean by that is, if I wanted to actually do this color, I can't lay the stencil down and paint it, right? That would paint the exact opposite. What this lets us do, though, is have these details inside of the figure itself. So for example, I have the eyes, I have the nose. If I was to do this the more traditional stencil design way, we would essentially have to have little connectors connecting the eyes to the edge of it, or it'd have to individually place the nose, the eyes, and all those elements. So this way we can have them all as one piece, much easier to apply, but it does take a little bit of a different workflow. And so having said that, we're going to go ahead and try that out on our guinea pig here. So as you can see, I have lots of individual kind of planks and bits of metal that we can play around with different textures on. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and grab, let's see, probably this one right here. We're going to go ahead and apply this. And so what I have, when stencils, I always use my X-Acto knife. I try to use a dull one if I can, because it doesn't need to be super sharp. And we'll see how well this works. You're going to start with the nail.
This is scary.
This is actually scary because it's so hot. I'm probably just going to slip. There you go. So it's coming off. So at the end of the day, the stencils that we use in miniatures, whether you're getting them from Fallout Hobbies or from my store. They're basically, they're stickers, right? They're stencils that are essentially stickers designed to look like cool Warhammer things. So I peeled that off. Toughest step is done. And what I'm going to end up doing is, this is the non-sticky side, so I just want to show you guys this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and paint the color here. Then I'm going to cover it up with the actual stencil. And then we go back with the actual color. Like, let's say I will probably do a white here, cover this up, mask it, and then go over this with the metal again. So yeah, I realized I peeled that a little too soon.
Hans, Adrian's store is in the description.
It is in the description. So yeah, you guys can check it out there. I have a bunch of the ones I'm using today. And then also if you guys want custom stencils, I do that as well. So we're going to start off with Bone White from Game Air. I use this for all of my Orc White. I don't want it to be completely pure white, but it's good enough that it registers as that. Cool, so we've got the airbrush. If you guys want some airbrush techniques, we will be talking about that today, but last week's episode actually covers a lot of the basics. So we're going to go ahead and
There goes your stencil.
Yeah, it's gone forever. Oh no, that's the backside, luckily. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this with some paint. I'm going to have it sort of coming from the center to create a slight glow effect. This is where the inverted stencils can be tough, because if you wanted to do a gradient, for example, you kind of have to picture where the stencil is going to be ahead of time. So what I'm actually just going to check. Yeah, see, I had a feeling. I felt like it was the right size, but I actually need to go out a little bit farther. Let's see.
We miss playing, Mark.
I know. I remember Warhammer. Tabletop Simulator only takes you so far. As the weeks have dragged on, I've found it to be less and less scratching my itch. Like, it's fine, but I just want to roll dice, you know? See my friends across the table.
Man, I'll tell you what. I saw a post from Reese talking about flights for SoCal, and I realized that I'm going to have to play Warhammer again.
Yes.
I can't go to SoCal and just be bad.
No. You might have to play some games. All right, I'm just going to give that 1 second just to cure a little bit. As always, make sure you give time to cure, especially if you're doing anything thick, right? You want to be super, super careful. It's really hard to resist kind of diving in there with the stencils, but you still have to. The stencils I designed, I know it's similar for like Hobby, what is it? Fallout Hobby, are similar in that they're not very strong stickers. They're intentionally designed so that they won't rip any paint off. Having said that, if they haven't cured yet, it's still going to do it. Yeah. All right, let's do this. Death Spectre stencil. Yeah, I think so. I don't know what that one looks like, but definitely. The main thing is just thinking about how it can simplify down, right? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just apply this. We're starting off super easy today. It's a nice, completely flat surface. Just going to go ahead and use my finger to lay that down. Easy peasy. And then let's grab some silver. So we're early in the painting process of this model or this piece of terrain. And so I don't have to worry too much about hitting something else. So I'm kind of just going to apply this so you guys can get the idea. And we can see how it looks. All right, so I'm getting some silver there. Let me get this better angle for you guys. And I'm just going to see, it's already kind of sticking up. There we go. Double, triple check that your stencils are lying completely flat. Because if you leave any part of it uncovered, some of that paint can get underneath there, and it can either look very splotchy, or it's going to look airbrushed or stenciled, right? Because you're going to see that sort of outline and haziness around the edge of it. So in this case, we're just going to go and hit the whole thing. This is going to get super grimed up afterwards, anyways. So we got the silver there. Wash that out. Metals are the worst to run in your airbrush because they take so long to get out of there. Especially if I'm doing a wash afterwards.
You know, I don't think I've ever airbrushed metal.
What?
I always hand paint it. Or I spray can it.
Oh man, painting like a knight, the whole of a knight by hand versus airbrush, it's bananas.
It does suck, yeah.
So, like, because it's so fast and so sharp when you do it with an airbrush. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead. So I'm using my my X-Acto knife, and again, this is kind of an older blade. Having said that, I do have to be careful because it can totally still pull the paint off. We'll see if we create enough of a contrast with the white and silver.
Oh, suspense is killing me.
I know, right? Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, I probably should have picked a different color, but it actually does work. So that's the super simplest design you can possibly think of. Now, what you can also do depending on, you can kind of play with how long your paint has taken to cure, right? So if you do have something that's a little sharp but not too sharp, you can of course just go ahead and scratch out certain parts of the paint, right? In this case, it's not going to do a ton because both layers are still kind of curing. So it's just going to go straight through. But you can kind of play with that. And I definitely encourage you to sort of not hold these things too sacred, right? They're supposed to be grungy a lot of the time. They're things that are painted onto vehicles, so their paint's going to be peeling, coming off. And I think that's a good way of really making it not look like a stencil and actually have it look interesting and authentic. Yeah. So that's the mega basic stencil. And I'll probably have a ton of orc glyphs on this by the time I'm done painting it. Most stencils are reusable if they're the sticker kind. I know mine are. This one normally, there we go. I'll grab like the back of a sheet and just kind of lightly apply it, and that'll keep for a decent amount of time. If you press it too hard, it might get stuck, and if you don't press it hard enough, it'll actually start to dry out. So in reality, at home, my lamp is one of those like old metal lamps, so it has the back to it like this, and it's just covered in stencils that are like waiting to get reused. Because I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to ruin them. I want to save them. And the truth is, half of them I don't end up doing it, so it's just like pointless. But it's the thought that counts, right? All right, cool. So that's our first stencil. I'm scared to do the checkers, but we're going to do the checkers.
Oh, that's what I'm excited for.
I know, right?
I want to see checkers.
So here's the thing about checkers, guys. Let's find a good example. So an actual checker design is a bunch of alternating checkers, right, of different colors, and they're just touching each other barely. There's not really any overlap, so they're not actually touching, which, if you think about it from a stencil design perspective, means it's actually impossible to do. So there's two things you can do. Well, there's a few things you can do. So again, I know like over at Fallout Hobbies, their checker stencils are actually just individual strips, so you have to actually like line them up. But my difficulty with that was that for me, it ended up it doesn't always look like checkers. Like it works really well for an infantry, so the back of my orcs would just be one strip that looks great. But if I wanted to do like a bigger section, it wasn't quite enough, right? And so I started cutting my own stencils, and it's a good example.
Wow, look at how many stencils he has.
I know, right?
He came prepared.
All of these can be yours. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it, guys. So here, let me show you this one. So these have already been used. I don't know if it's even going to show up contrast.
Wow, it's really white.
It's just pure white. No.
I can see the hint of checkering in there, but it's mostly blown out. Here, if you turn off the light, the lamp, you turn that off. It's off the edge of the table. Ah. There, you found it.
It's just a giant, oh, I gotcha.
Yes, much better.
There we go.
Now we can actually see it.
So you can see that. That's the remnants of a stencil that I used for Harlequins. We posted that on the show's Instagram. And essentially what I've done is I've gotten as close as I can to being attached. They actually are attached, but just barely, which means you have to be very careful when you're applying them. But it works. All right, so let's see. Is this a good size? I'm gonna go ahead and pull one. I'm gonna do the one that I secretly like the least.
Yikes. Confidence.
Right? Well, so I'll show you guys in a bit, but I basically made two of them closed canopies, and then the other one I actually made just an orc kind of sticking out of it, which I would normally always do. But I wasn't super happy with it. So I've got this stencil, and I guess maybe I should try turning this off. Once I pull it off, you guys will see. So I'm gonna start from one side, trying to pick a good one. And very carefully, I'm just kind of rolling the paper a little bit. I don't want to break the stencil before it's even time. So like this. And I'm going to grab a corner and start peeling. This is where it's actually nice.
Oh, that's satisfying to watch.
Right? Super satisfying. Wait until you actually finish the model. All right. So some of them are going to pop off. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. If I was doing Harlequins, I would really take my time. Make sure they're all there perfectly. But this is the boys, let's be honest. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop off these ones at the top very carefully. I just want this one row to start. There we go, cool. Those can kind of sit there. They're not going to dry instantly. So I basically have this strip of checkers. I've got one too many and one too few. That's totally fine. So I'm going to stick that there. And these ones will be easier than normal. because I want to do black and white checkers and the base is already black. If you wanted to do something else, you often will have to lay down a layer of black first. I recommend if you're doing black and white checkers, lay down the black first and then do the white in stencil. It just looks better. Okay, so let's see. So I want to do it.
Now, Adrian, I'm not seeing a lot of flat surfaces here. How are we going to work around that?
Right. So this is another important thing with stencils, is you got to work with the model, right? And with the orcs in particular, I look for individual surfaces, and then I can really play with the parts where this is getting kind of blown out from a blast mark or getting scratched off, and just kind of have fun with it. So I end up with a lot of smaller sections where they have stencils. If you're working with Eldar, which you guys might have seen, I try to get as much surface as possible. So I'm just going to lay this down, and I'm going to be very, very careful. Right now I'm just using my finger. I want to make sure that they lie completely flat. We've got that there. I'm not going to worry about this. Well, actually, I will lay it down so I don't get paint underneath. But this area, I'm not actually going to be doing a stencil on. So we're essentially just going to be doing past this panel all the way to the end. We're going to do that. And again, just pressing down with my thumb to make sure that nothing gets underneath it. This little bump makes me a little bit nervous, but we'll see. Cool. So we've laid that down. And we are going to hit this with that bone white. So what we need to do now is actually some additional masking. And I think we're going to try my personal favorite, Silly Putty. So this is just, regular store-bought Silly Putty. And I mentioned this previously, that it's a great masking material because it's obviously completely malleable. You can tear it up, you can combine it, and it doesn't carry paint really. If you were to soak it, maybe, but I can just use this to mask an area off. So for example, let me reflatten this. I'm going to flatten this out, and I'm just going to lay this. Let's see, where do I want to end it? I'm going to just go to here, essentially, like that. I'm going to break that piece off because I want to add some more. So let's see.
Could you hold it a little bit closer to you?
Yes.
There you go.
So there we go. Cool. We're going to do that. This side, I'm just going to get a roll of it and just apply it like that. Perfect. And then let's see if this one can reach. So it's not the best at having really straight edges across long stretches of surface. But for these cases where it's going to be a bit rough, I think it works quite nicely. There we go. Cool. So we've got that. There's our stencil laid out. Let's see what we can do. I'm scared. As I mentioned, this metal is, I want to get this metal washed out, so 1 second.
James has a question for us.
Yeah, let's do it.
What color is the hardest to airbrush?
Ooh, well, you should check out last week's episode. Or white. Well, white is tough to make look good, and I still have an open call. If anyone has a good recipe for white, I want to hear it. But yeah, white or yellow. Yellow is tough because you basically need to lay out a bunch of layers and have kind of bright things below it, and yeah, so it takes a lot. You can't just paint it on, right? I would say white.
White's tough.
It's white or yellow. I'm going back and forth. I don't know.
White's tough to finish. I mean, it's easy to just put a white onto a model as like an undercoat.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. All right. Oh, so this is another good point. You guys probably won't see it, but I did have a little bit of water, condensation from cleaning that, and that is the death of a stencil. If your paint is not thin enough, or if you get any water on it, that's going to seep underneath the stencil, and then you'll get this splotchy, finger-painted looking thing that is completely opposite of what you're probably trying to achieve with this hyper precise method. So just make sure that you've thinned your paint enough if you're thinning it, or if you've just washed, just make sure that the water's out of it. All right, cool. So let's make sure you guys can see this. I'm going to go ahead and apply it. And with my checkers, with actually both my orcs and my Eldar, I like to create a very slight gradient. So this whole thing is going to get the white, but I'm going to be applying it solely from this side, right? You can see it's going to get thicker on this side and lighter as it goes across. And it shouldn't be super apparent, but it's going to add just a little bit of motion across these wings. Do it a little bit more towards the end.
Now, I'm no orc player, but I do believe these are doctors.
So they look super, super similar.
Is it the same kit?
It's all the same kit now, but basically, and they're so absurdly similar that it's really hard to know the difference. This curved wing like this is the burner bomber, and which is extended. It's actually a wider wing. And then it has these things, which I'm starting to realize I think are the actual 2 big bombs that they drop. And that's the main thing that distinguishes them. What you're probably seeing is this turret on the top, which I believe is from the Daka jet. So you guys can see here, pop this one off. Slight tangent, this is important, Bridger. This is the actual turret top for the burner bomber. So that's probably why you're thinking Daka jet, because that's what that one is. It's so funny, because they all look great, but really they're very subtly different. It's so funny. Cool, so we've got our stencil there. I'll show you guys how to do this next part. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a bit more of a gradient coming back this other direction. So in this case, the black into the white, and I want to kind of help blend that. The reason I considered doing it right now or not is I could do it afterwards, honestly, because the model is black, and that can help blend it. But this technique will hold for any sort of stencil, right? So when I did the Harlequins, they were soaring spite, and so they had the blue. So I did the main layer of the blue, and then I did towards the front of the stencil, the front of the stencil, a bit of white, and I hit it from that angle, and then from the other side, a little bit of black or like the dark blue. So this would be kind of the same idea, and it's the same kind of thing. It just creates a bit of depth and a bit of motion. There we go. Make sure I get this. So it just helps blend it a bit. You don't want to be too blunt about it. And then in fact, I'm going to hit the front of this wing right here. I always end up blending these back in towards the original color. All right, cool. Moment of truth, Bridger.
I'm so excited.
I'm scared. I'm going to peel this off. You do have to be careful. The silly putty can pull the stencils. There we go, right on cue. So, good job. For these big ones, it's not a big deal. But if you're getting really small stencils, then it can get a bit ugly if you mix them too much. Cool, so here is actually a good thing. So the silly putty, you can see it can get a bit stringy. Don't pull it all at once. But one of the other things I love about it, and anybody who's played with this as a kid is like, yeah, obviously. I can just kind of ball this up and just dab it, and it'll pick it all up super easily. And that wouldn't really work with any other material. I would not recommend trying actual clay with this. Okay, so at this point I have a couple of decisions. It's whether or not I want to try to preserve the stencil, right? So again, stencils are super reusable, but the thinner they get, so in this case I knew I wanted to have the checkers look as real as checkers as possible, right? With as little kind of connection between them, which is great, but it does mean that the stencil is more fragile, so I do have to be careful. So I'm just going to, again, use my X-Acto blade, and I'm just going to pop off just a little bit off of each of them, and then start to peel it. Won't stress about it too much if it breaks, but we'll see how lucky we can get.
Yeah, so the Bay Area is having a bit of, especially Comcast, having a bit of an internet issue just Bay-wide, and there's honestly nothing that, as far as we know, there's nothing that can be done. Whether you have business-grade internet or just at-home internet, streaming is not great right now. So we're going to have some ups and downs. We're going to have some bumps. Sometimes the audio is going to cut. Sometimes the stream is going to be choppy. And they've told us there's just nothing we can do.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. We did look into it to see if there's anything that can be done, but unfortunately it's not truly on our end. So bear with us. Yep, I played these way too flat. That's okay. So I'm just going to peel this off, and we'll see our beautiful checkers.
That was my vote anyway, to just destroy the
destroy it. Yeah. So with these ones, I generally will. Again, because I know that that's kind of the sacrifice for them. And that's okay.
Boop. Wow, but look at those checkers.
I know, so sharp, right? I started doing this because decals are great, but there's nothing like that painted on feeling, right? And a lot of the extra work that you do with decals is basically just to make it look like it was painted on. I'm like, why not just do the actual stencils themselves? All right, cool. We've got that nice and sharp. Dig it. We got a little bit of a stencil in there still. Cool. So you can see, super sharp. We've got some blending in there. We did get a bit of bleed over here that I missed with the silly putty. That's all right. You can always come back and clean that up. In fact, what I'm going to do now, and again, this is something I recommend. I still do it on again, Orcs and my Eldar. And the reason I keep talking about those two is because they're so different as far as armies go, but they both make a lot of use of stencils. So I'll go back with my first color and just kind of blend in certain parts of it. So I need to hit this with some black. The edges of it, maybe just a tad, and kind of just fade it back in.
You make this look easy, Adrian.
I hope so. It's not. But the results are so worth it. Nope, a little too much there. Cool. So yeah, that's pretty dope. We got this nice Goff style wing.
In no time.
In no time. Yeah, I mean that's the other thing, right? It's just you're trying to make it look good, but also within a certain amount of time. So yeah, that is our first real stencil.
Wow.
All right. Let's see. Let me gather these up real quick.
James, your second question, I've been thinking about it for a while.
Yeah?
James asked, what common complaint about a codex would push it over the edge if it got fixed? Like, what would make the codex broken? I think summoning, everybody remembers the days of summoning being free.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, it was so great. Except it wasn't. It was awful. Summoning being free was a nightmare for the competitive scene.
Yeah.
And I think that it feels pointless as it is right now. There's got to be a way to fix it that doesn't just break the game.
Yeah.
But the obvious ways to fix it do horrendously break the game.
It's a really hard mechanic to balance. It really, really is. And I mean, if you played any Sigmar, you've seen that also have the same kind of back and forth of what people get and how easy it is to get. But yeah, summoning is definitely a really good example. Taka Jets, yep. Do you guys think of the grim dark painting style that uses a lot of oil paints and enamel washes, and will you ever do an army up in this style? So I really like that style. I do a lot of Inquisitor 28 kind of stuff, and I know particularly who you're talking about. Yes, so my Chaos, I'm trying to do pretty close to that style. Very dark and grim. One of the things though is it's not always easy to make pop on the table, right? I like things that, like at the end of the day, I love painting my models, but I play with them like a foot or two away. And so there's a lot of stylistic things that I consider to make them essentially look good at that distance, right? You want them to look good when you look up close to them, but that kind of drives a lot of my decisions. But I really like that style. Ironically, a lot of like the basing and things like that, I am a huge fan of. It's very like muddy and rusty and dirty, and a lot of the basing you see nowadays, even kind of the things that I'm doing, right, are at the end of the day kind of stylized and cartoony-ish, right? But this grim dark idea is that it's just super grungy and kind of photorealistic, which is pretty sweet. I'm a big fan. But yeah, my Chaos is going to look like that eventually, hopefully. All right, cool. So I'm just going to keep going through some techniques with you guys, and then we'll kind of come back around as I need to do this. Let's see. Let's grab this one.
Oh, we're putting a stencil on a mostly finished model?
We are masking on a mostly finished model. So no stencil in this one, but same idea. I'm going to actually show you the finished version of this. I have this sort of icon on the front, which is I'm doing in my orange and black on this crazy teal background. So two very, very different color palettes and two things that I actually wanted to do airbrush on. So that's the tough thing. It's easiest when you can just airbrush the base, do all that stuff, and then go ahead and paint the details in hand. But sometimes you want everything to be super smooth and blended, you know? So we're going to do that right now. And this will also be another opportunity to show how I would do orange. Because I don't think we've actually done it since we got the airbrush. So what I'm going to do, this one is almost entirely with silly putty. And it's very painstaking. So with this one, same thing. I have my X-Acto knife. And then here's another tool that I highly recommend if you're going to be working with stencils or doing any sort of advanced masking. This is a sculpting tool. It's what I use for green stuff or clay. But the rubber nub at this side is fantastic because it's gentle enough that it won't actually scratch paint unless it's super uncured. But it's solid enough that I can actually move things around and get some precision with that. And you'll see why we need that in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the big layers and begin just laying this out. So again, I'm going to look for one edge of it. I'm going to get kind of close. And then I'm going to use this tool to completely flatten it and bring it as close as possible to the edge of this icon. Like so.
Now, Adrian, this teal, is this the same teal that you used on your Chaos Knight?
Yeah, it is. I'm obsessed with it.
Know the name of this color?
So this one actually, this is a combination of 2 colors. My favorite color is Vallejo blue-green, but this is also combined with emerald from Vallejo. So I do a base of black, I hit it with the emerald, then I hit it with the green-blue, and then I wash it in Agrax to sort of bring it down to an earthy tone. Because emerald is close enough that it works as this sort of darker color in this color palette, but also has this dark richness to it, which is really nice.
So there's your answer, Hans.
There you
have to mix it yourself.
Yeah, sorry. I love those colors. All of the Vallejo, their airline is great, but I'm really starting to fall in love with just their regular paints and learning how to kind of play with those and blend those, because there's some really unique colors. It's such a wide range that you'll find colors that you wouldn't have even like thought of, right? It's crazy. So here comes the tough part. So I've masked out, well, I guess I should do this side, but I masked out around the shape essentially. And I do have to go into here and into the eyeball.
Oof.
It's horrible. The eye, I'll do the best that I can.
I can already see how this tool is invaluable in this process.
Right, you can see like this is, I couldn't do this with my finger unless I had like very specifically cut fingernails. Which maybe that's the thing, I don't know. Like
I'm sure that's a thing. Someone's done that.
Yeah, I'd rather not go outside with that. All right, so let's see. So this is tough. I'm gonna roll this into a very thin shape, and it's always more than you think. Like, look at that. I was gonna lay that all the way across, and it's just like a quarter of it that I'm gonna use. So I'm just gonna push this into the crevices, and again, the silly putty is great for this because it will stick enough to do this, but then when it's time to take it off, it'll just come off. So it's really unique in terms of a material. So I've got that. I think I'm just gonna do the big eye, and then the other one I will just cover with a dot of paint. There's always a balance. Did I lose it? Here it is. So yeah, this is nothing fancy. It's just masking, right?
I think the scale of this is lost on the camera of how tiny this is.
It's so small.
Your hands are enormous in this picture. Everybody remember.
Yeah.
Adrian has normal sized hands.
Or do I? No, I do. We're squishing it back in.
Like, if you were to try to do this any other way, I think it would just be infeasible.
It would, and especially with the accuracy of this. And again, if you wanted to paint this, it'd be totally fine. But to get this sort of gradient from the airbrush, there's no other way, I think. All right, cool. So we've got that. What do we have in here still? Black? Okay. So we're going to run out this black. What teal paint do you use to go with pink? After watching part of the Chaos Knight stream, I've decided to go with teal instead of purple to go with my pink. Great question. Yeah, Armand is a great color. That's one of my favorites. James, it's a similar sort of blue-green. I really like blue-green with pink. The other one that I have used a lot in the past, my older Zinj Demon stuff, is actually just the electric blue from Vallejo Game Air, and a wash of Druchii Violet, or no, the Blue Games Workshop wash. And actually, the cool thing you can do with that is, so you get the blue, you get the pink, and you sort of blend them together in the airbrush. It'll look very kind of airbrushy, but then when you go to actually wash it, so you wash the pink side in the Druchii Violet, and then you wash the blue side in Drakenhof Nightshade, that's the name. And then between them, you actually blend the two together, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
The technique you just described
sorry,
sounds actually impossible.
It's so much fun. It's crazy, crazy fun. You do need like 2 brushes because you got to do one and then the other and only blend them at the last second, but it's so good. All right, back to this. Orange icon with silly putty masking. Cool. So we've got that there. Get any water out of this. Looks good. And on the first one, what did I do? Yeah, I just did it sort of emanating from the center. So I'm going to copy what I did the first time. So the gradient is essentially the lightest in the middle going out to the black at the sides. Yeah, that's all we need. It's so funny because you spend all this time setting it up, and then it's like 5 seconds of paint, right? But it's everything else that you would have had to do that you have to remember. That's where the savings come in.
Yeah, a lot of these techniques I hadn't even considered. You know, I don't know. The whole thing's this color now.
That's totally fair. Hey, it's a lot of experimentation, a lot of things that didn't work, right?
Yeah, like pretzels. Who came up with that?
Who did come up with that?
Someone had to really experiment to get there. Same with masking out models, huh?
Yeah, exactly. People do some really weird stuff before they. All right, so I'm applying the orange, and God, I just love this orange color. You can see how much it changes over the course of applying it. It goes from this kind of light orange color. We could totally leave it at that. And then as I apply it, it almost takes on some red shades where it's applied the thickest. And it just has such a wide range of use. I want this to be pretty rich, to be honest. Cool, we got that. You notice I actually still got a little bit on the barrel there. I didn't mask that off. It's hard to remember, right? Like the paint is flying. And so every once in a while I'll hit something like behind that I didn't want to. That's all right. The other secret to orange with the works is if it hits metal, it just kind of looks like rust half the time. So it's fine. It's fine. So we got the orange. Now we're going to come back and hit it with the black. Gradients. Gradients are kind of like, that's what I'm all about. That for me is what has taken my work kind of to the next level, is learning how to apply different gradients. So just a little bit of black on either side. We'll do a little bit on the bottom of the teeth right there. Boom, bam. Well, let's do it. So then here, actually I want to show you guys this. It's crazy. I'm just going to grab the rest of my silly putty. Just going to slap it down and it just pops off.
What did you just do?
Right? Magic. Magic. There you go. I got the eye. Beautiful.
Wow. That easy, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I gotta try this sometime.
I mean, it's like a simple idea, but it just takes time, right? But again, that pops, and we got that nice gradient on two different surfaces with two very different materials right away. So big fan of that. Love the character orc models have. Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. That's why I like them. They have all these fun details. They're just so much fun to paint. Right. Let's keep on going. So let's see. What I wanted to show you guys next was, which one do I want to do this on? We'll do it here.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking the building.
Back to the building.
It's a safe choice.
Always, always. So what I'm going to do actually right now is I'm going to apply a bit of silver because, again, so far, especially with the checkers, we've been kind of doing a black and white material on top of black, which is easier than not. All right. So I'm actually going to just turn a couple of these plates silver. We'll start to let those cure as we prepare the next section. We'll throw them in our
easy bake oven.
Our easy bake oven.
So it turns out pretzels, 1860s, Pennsylvania.
Transylvania?
Pennsylvania.
That makes sense.
That surprises me.
You know, I was gonna say, like, obviously, like, I'm American. I live in America, and like, there's always pretzel shops in malls, and I've like never had one, but I've always wondered. People like obsessed with them.
What?
Yeah, like
you've never been to Auntie Anne's?
No, I've seen them a million times.
Find this hard to believe.
I just never have. So I was wondering if it was an American thing.
Apparently, but wow.
That's so funny.
That's actually more mind-boggling to me than how have you never been to a pretzel? What?
I just like, I don't know, not my thing, you know?
They're delicious. Not in like a. They're delicious in like a cheap pizza kind of way, you know? Like it's salty and savory and greasy.
But they're kind of dry too.
Well, that's what the cheese dip is for.
See, but the thing is, like, if your food requires another food to fix it, don't you think there's a problem?
You could say that about salads.
You could say that about
salads require a dressing.
Yeah, I don't like salads, man. I like salads when they have like a lot more body to them. Like I want to be able to like eat it and chew it. I like miss my silver. I don't know.
So if you've never had like a mall pretzel, you haven't had a mall pretzel dog.
No.
Wow.
That does sound like the most American
What
thing
about
ever, though.
a pretzel pizza?
Pretzel pizza? This is madness. This is
You haven't had any of
heresy,
these
Bridger.
things?
This is heresy. No.
As soon as the mall reopens, we gotta get you in there.
I know, right? Meat requires seasoning. That's true, but we didn't invent. Well, we did invent some meats, but
Like the hot dog.
like my brother would always have like ketchup with like chicken and stuff like that. I'm like, well,
Ew.
then the chicken needs to be cooked
That's
like
kinda
better.
gross. Unless you're talking like fried chicken. Any sort of fried chicken.
No, fried
ketchup's
chicken.
okay.
That's with ketchup.
That's all right.
It's good stuff. Some peri peri sauce, ranch. Oh man.
James has had some good questions today. What's the model that you thought would be easy and then wasn't easy to paint? Like the model that was most deceptive about how hard it was to paint.
That is a great question. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
For me, it's like every model I've ever painted.
Like, oh my god.
Once I get into it, I'm like, man, there's just too many steps in this.
That's totally fair. So not to sound like a cop-out because I've been talking about it lately, but demonettes. So demons generally are very easy to paint because they don't really have clothes, they don't really have armor, super easy. But the demonettes like have actual clothes and actual armor, and then I want them to like be like pretty fair skin, like super almost like pale. We're kind of coming back to the how do you paint white question again. But I've struggled so much with them. Like I have 90 of these things to paint, and I've done demons before. I thought this would be so easy, just one and done, bam. But it's not. It's been super hard. So that one surprised me.
So it's more of a color difficulty than a technical difficulty. You've mastered all the techniques at this point. Just getting the color right is the hardest part.
I'm not making that YouTube clip. It's mostly a color theory thing, but particularly with the new demonette models, well, like the current ones rather than the older ones, it felt much tougher to distinguish. I don't know, like at least the old ones were basically just like you do the skin, you do the claws, and then there's like the one cloak, so it's easier to sort of separate them out. But now it's like you have like the leather armor with the metal parts, which I noticed looking through the books that even GW basically just did all the metal and the leather like black, just the same color. There's definitely like 3 materials in there, so I felt a little bit better. Yeah.
I could tell you the most deceptively easy models I've ever done. They looked hard and they were easy. Was Nighthaunt. Basically every Nighthaunt model.
That's true.
Looks hard. It looks like, wow, there's a lot of materials here, and there's all these weird shapes, and how am I going to paint that thing? And then you just put a shade on it and you're done.
And they look good. They look good no matter what. Yeah, that's true. The Nighthaunt are actually deceptively easy. So I'm deciding which pattern I want to do here. Mostly just checkers. Spoiler.
Wow, our internet is really pooping out here.
Oh yeah, I'm even seeing it here. So sorry, guys.
That was wild.
Oof.
Our bit rate tripled, and somehow we went in the red.
Yeah, apologies, guys. We're dealing with it on our end too. Like it just sucks. Okay. Now that one's too big.
Ooh.
Yeah, these are these like orky flames that I have, but what I want to show you guys. Yeah, we can do it like that. Okay, cool. So we're gonna do that. So this is another old-fashioned masking technique. This is the one that most people are familiar with, which is just masking tape. And why we do all these like fancy masking techniques, I don't want to overlook just how effective this is. It's simple, and it works really well in conjunction with these other techniques. So for example, right, this is an orc building, so it's going to have tons of different crazy glyphs all over the place, and kind of multicolored. So what I want to do is I essentially want to have half of this remain silver, and then the other half be this like black color with the white flames or a different color flame. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and lay this down here. And of course, this is the fastest way to get a completely straight line, right? That'll work super nicely. And then particularly when I'm working with vehicles that have long straight seams, this is a great way to just do it. And it's really material you don't have to be precious about, right? It's like you're going to throw away this tape afterwards anyways. So that works. Cool. I'm going to let that one take the hit because it's already got some on it. So that's fine. So we've got that. So we've masked off the silver part. Now we're going to go ahead and hit up this part with the black before we apply the stencil on top. So layering these techniques One, to make a cool effect, but also just to make your life easier. That's kind of the whole impetus behind a lot of this stuff, is like, where is it worth putting more time? You know, spending 5 minutes setting something up to paint it in 2 minutes, because otherwise it would have taken you 20 minutes. It's that's kind of the balancing act. So I'm gonna go ahead and making sure I'm doing it. Yep, we're doing it. We're gonna hit this whole thing with black. Slowly black it out. Looks good. And what we can do here is we can apply a gradient over it. Again, it's all gradients, right? So I have just a little bit of gray where this black is coming from. And this is where we can talk a bit about secrets of black. Black is actually all about painting blue and gray.
You're just full of wisdom, Adrian.
I know, I try. So I'm like so. Not too heavy. Just enough, like that. Yeah, so like these Burnabombas, how I did the base of them was I paint them completely black, and then I go ahead and I hit them with a gray. In this case, I'm using a Stonewall gray from Vallejo Game Air, and just hit kind of highlights, edges, not planks, but any sort of like boards on the plane. Once that's cured, I hit the whole thing with an airbrush of Druchii Violet. And I do like the airbrush for that because it makes sure that it's not too glossy and it's consistent. But any sort of blue wash will work. We have that. I do want to give it just a minute. I can see a little bit of shine on it, which means it's not quite dried yet, before we do the other stencil on top of it. So James is hitting us up with the pretzel facts.
There's a lot of facts about pretzels.
I had no idea.
They're pretty old, turns out. It's only I didn't really read either hard or soft pretzels are very recent. Those were the 1860s. But like the other version, I don't know which. I assume hard pretzels are older. Are very, very old.
Very old. Yeah, it makes sense. 16 AD in Italy. Those Italians. They did pizza right, but they also made pretzels.
They do make some good food.
They do. Kyle asks, do you feel if you could take a fortification without it taking up a detachment slot, would they see more play? Absolutely.
Some of them would.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't fix all of them.
The
but that's
tree,
like their own design.
The tree would be great.
The tree would be so good.
Some of the Tau fortifications you might see. God. The shield wall or the drone port.
Yup.
You might see those if they didn't take a detachment.
The Aegis defense line. Just to make sure you get cover on a certain spot would be super powerful if it didn't take up all the time. Especially because you think about the armies that these are good for.
Right.
So like that would be great for guard. But guard often are maxing out on detachments one way or another. Same with things like, I don't know, orcs or almost everything nowadays, actually, if you're playing super competitively.
Could you imagine putting guardsmen with las cannons in a fortification and it doesn't take up a detachment?
So great. You mean like the Bastion?
Yeah.
The Bastion is weird because every once in a while it sneaks into play and like something crazy happens with it. Like someone's running like 15 Dark Reapers or whatever in there, and then it kind of goes away for a while. It always comes back and messes up the game. Yeah, it would be super good. It'd be great. So yeah, I think that would go very far just to help fortifications in general. Right? Not to say that it would solve all of them, but it would definitely help. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually cut this stencil. This is another thing to not be afraid of doing. Do it on the paint palette. I'm just going to go through that. Perfect. Because yeah, these things are meant to be used, reused, used up, all these things. It's totally fine. So let's see. I have this rivet here. You can see here that it's kind of elevated, and I want to be careful about that. I'd rather do it that way. No, I really wouldn't. All right, so fingers crossed. So first thing, peeling the stencil. It's the hardest.
McDonald, these are mostly Vallejo paints.
Yeah, I'd say so, especially today.
Adrian is quite fond of their
I like them.
Game and Air lines.
And they're well priced too. I know the miniature paints can be very expensive. Oh yeah, you can see I chipped a little bit off of this from not letting it cure, but I'm gonna do a live show. God dang it. All right, so we're gonna push this in here. In this case, using this old-fashioned tool, it's called my finger, and just pressing it flat. It's totally okay that this looks ugly and it's all ruffled because the connection point right here where it connects to the rest of the stencil is flat. It's masked off. That's all it really needs to do. So that's totally fine. Yeah, let's see what we can do.
One of them. People are going to be so excited to play once they can play. They'll just be playing everything. There'll be a whole month where just you'll see all kinds of wacky armies.
I think so.
It's going to be exciting.
Do you guys think that you've lived up to... There's a lot of us, myself included, that were like, I'm going to get so much more painting done, and like all these armies are going to get finished. Have you lived up to that?
I certainly haven't. No. My Orion is still sitting with only a base coat of gold.
Oh, man.
Taunting me from the shelf.
That's like the only thing you need. You're done, right? You need to wash it. That's it. I'd say I've been doing a lot of painting, but I haven't been much better about completing entire projects at once. You know, like I have all of my Speed Freaks that we were going to do for the show all on my work table still, and they're like 90% done. But it's hard when you don't see people to show them to. I think that's a big thing of what we do.
Yeah.
The internet only helps me so far.
Having a big motivator, something to push you to finish it.
You should. Any pressure. So I'm going to pull off. Oh, no! There you go. There's a lesson. We didn't wait for it to cure. Or Brian uses like super powerful tape. No. Yeah, so that's why you wait for things to cure. It's going to be 2
broke
for 2.
my heart.
I'm so sorry. Cut it. Cut the camera. I'm scared, Richard. Oh, no.
Oh.
It's so ugly.
Oh. Well, I mean...
Well. Let that be a lesson to you, children. So yeah, you can see that stripped that part off. It just wasn't cured yet. So, but you can see how we have 3 different parts. Oh, man. If we had a sad... We need the sad trombone effect. That's what that'd be for. All right. This is trash. Get out of there. All right, cool.
So we've had the Bob Ross ruined. Now we need it saved, Adrian.
This is a teaching moment. This is absolutely... Look at that. Look at this damaged effect. It's beautiful. Oh, man.
Anyone who's ever painted recognizes when paint gets pulled up.
Yeah, that's exactly what that looks like. Okay, so what I want to do, this isn't necessarily... Well, we're going to do some masking techniques, but I just want to get some orange on this bad boy and see how it looks. I haven't completely figured out how I want to paint them. I definitely know this is going to be either the teal or the orange. Obviously, it's going to pop a ton. And so all of my bombs, so on the bottom of this, I haven't glued them in. If you can ever not glue in those things before you paint them, I highly recommend it. The Orc vehicles are nice with that because they actually have these slots that are actually pretty snug. So like my other planes, like the other bomber, I forget what it's called, I've never actually glued them in because they actually are snug enough that they can fit. So those are going to all be orange and black. And then if this is truly those big bombs, then I guess that should be orange as well. Which is funny because like obviously it's a horrible idea to have these huge counterbalances on your wings that you're going to lose like one at a time.
Yeah, it seems like it's structurally part of the wing that they're dropping on.
Right? Like, but there is a bomb that you can only drop 2 times per game. And there it is. So I don't know, man. Anyway, so those might end up orange. And then I have this front plate, which I actually think I want to do in something. I think I'm going to do this orange and then make these teeth the blue to sort of contrast that. What do you think about that?
That sounds a lot like what you did with Gaz, and I really love how Gaz turned out.
That's true. All right, let's do it. We're going to give the tape another chance because we have these big solid lines again, so that's an important thing.
Thanks, Alex. Really, really glad that we could bring you into the fold of Custodes.
Ooh, awesome. Welcome, welcome. We love Custodes here. We love them golden boys. I'm going to bring this up close so you guys can see them.
Could you move it a little closer to you?
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
There we go. I'm just going to apply that there. Getting close enough. In this case, again, because it's black, I'd rather get some orange onto the black because that's easier to clean up than it is if I am missing some orange. If I'm trying to add a bit of gradient orange, that's pretty much impossible. There's no like content aware fill. So apply this one like so. And in the middle, I think we're going to do a bit of silly putty. This engine block right here is going to end up being silver, so I'm not super concerned. That's another thing that actually distinguishes the different flyers, is the type of cover on the front of this engine is based off of the flyer. So like the burner bombers are supposed to have the semi-enclosed one, which is different than this one. It's so funny. It's like a crazy sophisticated kit, but I guarantee most, like 90% of people have no idea what any of them are. We're going to also mask this bottom part right here.
You're such an orc nerd.
Me? Sorry. my orc showing.
You recognize all of the different tiny little bits.
Well, it's funny because like I honestly hadn't built the burner bomb before this, and I was like, oh, these are all the parts I didn't use, and this is how they work. Not all of them have been converted. I think some of my wing parts right here are part of a def roller now, but that's the way life goes, you know. One day you're a aircraft, the next day you're a def roller.
Yikes. That's
I've been in seclusion too long. All right, so I'm gonna have this gradient again. This time coming from front to back, conveys a sense of motion. So bringing this up with the bone white. Any light color will do, really, depending on what you want the final result to look like. Oh, here, I'm gonna hit this light on again.
Oh, we have had that off for a while, huh?
Let us know what you guys like better. We don't need to see the details of the stencils anymore. You guys get the idea. And again, shameless plug. We have pretty much all the stencils that I used today are in the show link, the description down below. So you guys can check that out. Also do some custom stencils as well. All right.
Kyle, an Orc Air Force is really fun, and with their Psychic Awakening, it's becoming an actual army. Like,
right?
It's
so much fun.
Not terrible now.
One of my secret plans behind doing this is I really want to do an air show. Like we still need to have an all flyers battle.
Oh, we do.
Oh, you're so cool.
We need to use Aeronautica rules.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about true scale Aeronautica. It'd be so cool. All right, so we've got that. Hit it with that orange.
Have you guys been getting into Aeronautica? I know Faultline has been getting crazy into Aeronautica because I think for the most part they're stir crazy. Like they can't play 40k, so they're just trying to find anything to do.
It's a good smaller scale game to play.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet. I'd be definitely very curious. Obviously, I like that orcs are one of the two factions that are featured right off the bat. So I'd be curious.
I've played it a few times.
Yeah?
New and old.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a systemsy guy. I like it when, you know, Battlefleet Gothic has 1,000 rules that all come up once in a lifetime.
Right.
And that's what I love. And
you love that.
Old Aeronautica have ammo counts on everything, and it was always like such a low ammo count. You could use a gun like twice. You would have a whole battle and nobody would die because you would just run out of ammo.
That's hilarious.
And the new one is a much more modern game, I would say.
Yeah.
Game's finish. That's a meaningful difference.
Lame.
So I'm curious to see what people think about Aeronautica.
What's funny because it sounds like the old Aeronautica was more like World War I, II era.
Yeah.
Like where the planes really couldn't couldn't do much to each other.
Well, it's still like pretty much everything hits on 6s. Some stuff hits on 5s.
This is with a D6 system?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But without the ammo restriction, you just keep trying. Like every turn, you just keep trying.
Right.
But it used to be you had to the stars had to align before you would really shoot your guns.
I got
like everything had to be perfect.
It creates a different narrative.
Yeah.
Two ways to create the sense of a dogfight, but yeah, that's a much more modern game design philosophy of like you will be doing something all the time. You feel like you can achieve something, it's less punishing.
Yeah, it felt really bad to have everything line up and then you just missed with every shot. Like, well, guess I lose.
It's pretty hardcore, man. Back to the black here. Let's see, what's the best way to hold this one for you guys?
From the top down, that looks all right.
Okay. Just want to make sure. So we're bringing some black back here, setting up that gradient. Oops, gotta be careful not to go too far. And I do like mine pretty stylized, I'll be honest. Like, this is going to pretty much pure black, whereas if you wanted something that was a bit more realistic, you'd probably hold back a bit, have it sort of darkening but not going completely to black. So that's just like a style thing. Cool. Dig in. There's actually nothing we can really strip here, so it should be fine.
Still, very tense.
I know, right? Cool.
Oh, and she came out perfect. Look at that.
Amazing.
Wow, James Peake wrote a book about Minotaurs. That's really cool.
What? That's awesome.
Or is writing a book. Guess it's not done yet. Shouldn't count the chickens.
No, that's great. Yeah, the Minotaurs are super cool. There's a couple Space Marine chapters that I'm surprised they haven't covered more. Like they're like Forge World chapters, but they have really cool backgrounds. Like the Carcharodons, those guys, Minotaurs. Oh yeah, I'm really liking this. That's super.
It is eye-catching for sure.
I'm super happy with
very
that.
orange.
Okay, let's see what else we have. I'm gonna go ahead and do a smaller checker right in the middle right here. And one of the reasons I want to do that is I want to show you another method of applying stencils. So it's not, none of this is one size fits all. And sometimes, this is the method I use for Gaz. I actually did not lay down a single stencil. It wasn't one stencil. It was tons of tiny ones. Yeah, I like this. Because sometimes, again, I just don't want to have any space between them. And if it's a small surface, then it works fine, right? This is, for Gaz, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Okay. 12. No, it's half of them because only half. Yeah, so just 6 stencils, 6 smaller ones. So if you're crazy like me, you can go ahead and do it. And I'm literally going to go ahead and lay down these checkers. Ooh. And again, more work, but gives me more precision. So it's all a balance of like, what do you want to get out of this? Are you using these stencils to speed up your work, or are you using them to take them to the next level? And they're both perfectly valid answers. What was that?
To enhance.
To enhance. There you go. Well, hopefully it's enhancing it no matter what. But so you can see it's not too bad. I am pretty much just using the X-Acto blade here and using it to just scoop them up and apply it. The cool thing about this technique is it actually uses the inverse of the first one that we did on this plane. So we would strip that up, right? And then we have all the checkers that are left over, and those are all individual stickers or stencils. And we can apply that. Let's see. Again, it works particularly well with orcs because if anything's not completely centered, that's fine. But I will say battle damage is your friend. You can always fix it with that. So for example, this one's going to be a bit wonky because of that rivet right there. But that's okay.
I believe some orcs do ride the bombs, Alex. In Aeronautica, there are goblin bombs that you can drop, and they like fly around the board.
Oh, for sure.
Because goblins are steering them. So
the Stompa actually has missiles, which are just giant rockets with grots actually inside of them. So they're guided. My Stormboy Knob is actually, he has a jetpack, but he also has one that he's riding on at the same time. So he's like double fisting him. Cool, we've got that. Now we're gonna go ahead and lay down some masking. And for this one, we're just gonna use Silly Putty. It's fast, it's easy, and this is a pretty amorphous shape that is gonna get black at the edges of it anyways.
Adrian, do you have hexagon stencils? I remember you used some.
I do, yeah.
For the Eldar.
So, yes, I have some. I can show you them today. But I think also another kind of whole session we might want to do at one point is how to do like stealth fields. That's actually how I started doing it, was I wanted to do stealth cloaks on my rangers. And so that's kind of a whole process of like, how do you get the metallic paint down and then do the stencil. But I can show you some hexagons. I think I brought some. So I'll grab those in a minute. Cool, let's do it. It's laid down, get some white. What color do we have in here now? Black. Yeah, the hexagons were the reason I started doing this, actually.
Yeah, I remember doing that intro on your Tabletop Titans branded
Eldar.
Yeah,
I just wanted something different, you know? All right. And I love hexagons.
Who doesn't love hexagons?
Right? They're just so stylish.
Takes me back to the days of playing Super Hexagon.
Oh, man.
Now I look at that game and it just gives me a headache.
Getting old, Bridger. Getting old.
Yeah, right?
You know? So I'm just going to put my thumb here because I'm a little bit nervous about getting the spray over. It's a very advanced masking technique. Yeah, the hexagons would be great on Tau.
Ooh. As like a highlight, yeah. I could see a very sparing use of hexagons.
I know Steve Joel from 40K Today was going to tune in today because he was interested in the same thing, getting those hexagons on the Tau. And our friend Izzy did a Manta commission. Do you remember that one? He did, hexagons using essentially the same idea, but the outline of the hexagons was done in a like transparent but glossy material. So it created this idea of like this kind of field around the ship where it didn't actually change color, but you could sort of see the light reflecting off of it in this hexagon pattern in a different way. I love that stuff.
Like a hologram? Or
it was like a hologram. No, it was more like how would I describe it? Yeah, I mean, it was just had different glossiness to it, basically. So yeah, it was like this kind of shield, like shimmery. You could only see it at certain angles, kind of feel to it. And like it's the same as just a stencil, but the kinds of materials you apply to it can really change it. I think that's super interesting. Cool, that's dark enough. Wanted to make sure.
So I've noticed for all these stencils, you use 2 colors.
I do, yeah. One color ends up pretty flat. It might seem fine at the time when you look at it. It's just super flat. So unless you're going to do extra material on it, I do like doing 2 colors. And it just gives it a richness to it, especially because I don't want these to look like stencils, right? These need to look like they were painted or manufactured with it. And I found that if I wasn't doing this additional shading, stencils can just look stencily. That's a great question.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference.
But if you're patient, you can totally do that with a brush, essentially. Or even just use them as a guide. I've also done that. It just kind of gives you a reference to know where your straight lines need to be. So that's something that we don't talk about often, but I think it's important to say. All right, let's see. So this is where I want to make sure I'm not stripping it. And these are all still good, of course. Save them. We also get so many in each stencil that it's not usually a problem.
Kyle, bonuses for mono god or mono faction demons. I think they would have to be really careful because, well, a lot of reasons. One, Chaos Undivided is still something that's like has to be recognized in the lore, and mixing gods shouldn't feel bad just because you want to have a mixed god faction.
Yeah.
But also the strengths and weaknesses of the different gods vary wildly in their impact on the game. Like Nurgle is durable, right? That's like their thing. Right. They don't die. And so you could go like crazy. You could go buck wild with they can't die. Or it could do basically nothing. So they have to be very careful. And some of them, like Khorne, it is really like it either takes over the game or does nothing because they either kill everything they touch. And it does suck that demons are in such a bad place right now. But I think I have faith in GW. They'll figure it out. Demons, their thing is summoning. They're all supposed to be coming out of the warp, and they'll get it right. One of these decades, they'll figure out summoning.
I have faith, and they've been super powerful before, but it is such a tough, like because of the narrative, as you're saying, of the army basically. There's a lot of things that make it really tough to balance. And I think also to your point, if they were to release, so there are kind of mono god bonuses. They're just per detachment. So like I almost never run Khorne demons unless they're in a Khorne detachment, because that unlocks the rerollable charges, right? So things like Bloodletter Bomb. So they've done a little bit for that, which is sort of like they're separate, but they're not separate. But if they were going to go all the way, they would, I think, need to give also a bonus to taking Undivided. You know, you don't get this buff, but you get some other thing.
A little bit of each of the buffs.
Yeah, exactly. Which, again, not to always compare to Sigmar, but it's always interesting to see what they do. In Sigmar, you basically get different faction bonuses if you're Undivided. Like a lot of the new stuff, you can do things if you're Undivided. If you're going to go all Nurgle, then you can get this faction, essentially. So things like that, I think, are important. Yeah. So we've got our little checkered armor back there. Digging it. I was going to do this second plate also with the checkers, but I don't know if it would look distinct enough.
Maybe too much checkering.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You can have too much checkering.
What? What? It's super limited.
As someone who loves ska, I have to admit, you can have too much checkering.
Blasphemy. So here I have my flash kits, which talk about difficult to show restraint. But I only did it, in fact, this is the leader, and I have some checkers on the top of his back. And then I also have checkers here on this one bone, and that was tough to resist doing both in the checkers. But I'm actually really glad that I did, because I think that helps both of them pop.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely not much restraint on this model, but it's the kind of restraint that I'm showing. Oh yeah.
The pot holder that you're cleaning the airbrush out in, is there a brand that we want to advertise here?
Well, it's on Amazon. I just Googled it. It's airbrush holder cleaner something. It is important if you're going to airbrush. Safety is important. I'm breaking a couple rules here because I don't have my mask on. If I'm doing a long airbrush session, or actually I always wear one now because I do it so often. But in particular, if you're going to do a long session, have a mask, have it ventilated. We have a nice summer day, so we have the doors open in the back. But this also has a little filter inside of it. So when you're kind of getting rid of all the excess paint, things like that, especially if you're using isopropyl to clean, you want to have some protection between the aerated chemicals in your lungs. So there's actually a little filter in here. But yeah, if you just look on Amazon, a lot of the good starting stuff is just there. So they have the pot cleaner. They have a little cleaning set that has little brushes and things, which is super important to airbrush maintenance. So yeah, it was just that. It was like $10. Nothing super fancy. Yeah, great question though. Thank you.
I destroyed those brushes.
Oh, same. I'll be honest. They don't seem to last. The important part is making sure that they don't break while you're brushing or while you're cleaning, because then you have little particles come off. So it's always a quest for finding like the right materials, right? Okay. Let's see how we doing. What else do we need? I mean, I have lots of things that I can work on. Like I said, I brought work to do.
Let's see your hexagons. Show me your hexagons.
Let's do some hexagons. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe we don't put them on an orc model. That might be a little weird, but
hey, like I said, I brought that building. We can wreck that thing. Let's see. Oh, I have some tiny hexagons here actually. So I actually have. This is like a flip the light so you guys can see this. When I'm trying out new designs for stencils, I just cut out a ton of different ones. So this has like some diamonds, a bunch of little checkers of different sizes, because scale is super misleading. And then actually on the left side, which there's no way you guys will be able to see, I have some misprints of hexagons. So let's grab that. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off like so. And I had to play with the resolution a lot because, so this is a die cutting machine. It's not a laser cut, so it's not quite as accurate. So there actually is a limit to the resolution. And especially if you're going to be cutting a lot of detail into something, so something that can happen is little bits of the stencil can kind of come off and get caught in the blade. So if you're not watching, it can actually kind of just muck it up in that sense. So I played a lot with the resolution of this, and this was like just pushing the smallest hexagon I can do. So we'll see. Yeah, let's do it. We should put on one of Brian's new models. All right, so I'm gonna peel this off. I'm gonna just be covering this over anyways later on, so this is fine. We'll do it over here. Nice little section, and I'll hold it up so you guys can see. This is a strip of hexagons, and so there's a lot of ways you can do this. obviously in this case, actually I'm gonna have to hold on to this for a second. We don't want to do black. That's lame, right?
That would be lame.
That'd be pretty lame. So we're gonna do an undercoat, and this is going to be the color that's the actual hexagon shapes, right? Not the outlines. So let's see. Well, on the other hand, we basically just brought white today, so we're gonna do white on black. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and just lay it down here, and I'm gonna mask it just for the sake of keeping it clean because these are hexagons. Although with the hexagons, most of the time when I'm using them, it's to convey the idea of like stealth armor or stealth cloaks. I did it on all my Eliminators and Phobos units, and then obviously my Eldar Rangers. So in those cases, I was totally fine just kind of blending them in and out. You can fix mistakes. You're gonna wash them, and that works. With my white on the purple, that was a lot less forgiving, I'll be honest.
I love your Eliminators.
Thank you, thank you.
They look dope.
Those models are so perfect for stencils because of those big cloaks. Like we've had cloaks before, but nothing as like big and flat on so many models in an army, you know? Like they're always like just a little cloak, or they're super like rumpled, and that just doesn't work. Cool, so we've gone ahead, we've laid that stencil out. We are gonna go ahead and do just a white so you guys can see that contrast.
The teal is a mix of Vallejo blue-green, which is Adrian's favorite color.
Yep.
And Vallejo emerald green.
That's right. Another great color.
So you can make it yourself.
Yep, just those two. Let's start with the emerald and then do the teal on top. But they both have a lot of range, depending on how you want them to be applied. Actually, the emerald I would really like to use for a Sons of Horus army. Ooh. Like if you just do it on black, that's what it looks like. It's like that really sexy, like dark blue-green color. We'll do a white, make it super Tron-y.
You know what we have to do sometime? We need a nice OG 30k Alpha Legion army.
Oh man, I would love that.
I have a friend who's into Gundam, and he was showing me all these like cool painting techniques, and I was like, all of this just reminds me of Alpha Legion, and now I want Alpha Legion.
Right? I would love to paint that. That'd be amazing. Our friend Nick, actually, Tasty Taste from Blood of Kittens, has a it's kind of like that. It's like an old school Alpha Legion army, and it has this sort of like the metallic kind of green, blue, the silvers on like a really nice Martian red base. And he plays them as just like, you know, whatever Chaos Legions he wants and things like that. Super Alpha Legion, it's great. But they're also in like the Horus Heresy style armor too.
Yeah,
it's super cool. All right, so I've got some white. Go ahead and apply that. And actually in this one, I'm gonna go ahead and apply it pretty consistently across. We're gonna get some texture because this is actually a plank of wood, but it'll hold the paint pretty well. So we've got that. You can tell as soon as I pull the silly putty. There we go. The ordering matters sometimes.
Don't pull the stencil out first.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh man, that looks.
Look at that.
That's really cool.
I feel like we could get really creative with these stencils.
Oh, for sure.
We can put these on a lot of things.
Right? Yeah. They're actually really great for organic things too. So some of the Bloodthirster wings that I've done using that. But yeah, hexagon stencils. Yeah, great.
Pretty cool.
All right, let me see. How do I save this one here? All right. Moving on. I really like that though. That's nope, can't put the hexagons on the works. Can't do it, Adrian. Sorry. Nope. Must resist. All right.
You gotta be careful, James. +1 attack is infinitely better than it sounds.
So good.
+1 attack seems innocuous. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, Primaris, they just get +1 attack. It's like not that much. And then you see across a whole army what that really means, and it's stupid.
Well, it's really stupid, but also only for some units. Like Bloodletters would be bananas, but like Pink Horrors would be like not any better, right?
Right.
Or Plague Bearers even. Well,
that might.
If you no, because you wouldn't be getting the Nurgle bonuses necessarily. Depends how they stack them, right? So I think because right now the Nurgle bonus is 6s to wound, do +1 damage. So suddenly if you were stacking that with the +1 attack, That gets pretty scary.
And +1 inch move would also be big on things like Plague Bearers.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It already, yeah, exactly. I just remembered how bonkers Primaris are. I know, it's so funny. Who would have thought that a unit just with like a decent amount of attack, strength 4, would turn out to be such a nightmare? Because you combine it with everything else.
Well, the ability to take Thunder Hammers did come into play.
So good. What if we just gave that thing that's like 40 points for a hero to a guy that basically has 20 wounds? Like, that sounds reasonable. What? And they're so cheap. It's 16 points for Thunderhammer at time of recording. So like all of my squads have them basically. I think I grabbed more stencil than I needed to on this one, but that's all right. That's the way it goes.
You can never have too much stencil.
You can though.
Just mask it off.
Nah, yeah, exactly. I'll just mask it off. It's just not going to get used. See, last week I asked you guys if you start with the sergeant or the grunt in the squad. And this is my problem. This is what I do every time. I pick the one that I'm the least excited about, and I'm going to spend the most time into it. So by the time I get to these guys, I'm going to be like, let's do the stencil, throw it on. But maybe it's a transformative moment, and now I just love him the most. Yeah, let's try some tape. I'm curious. Normally I use, this is famous last words, but normally I would use the silly putty here, but let's just try this. 20 wound dude can get a 5+ feel the pain, a 5+ invul and 5+ feel the pain. Yeah, invulns are another crazy thing that's hard to balance. They're just so consistent.
Hey, they got it right with demons, huh? Their invuln's not too good.
But it's good enough, man. I'm telling you.
Oh, remember that demon game? Ryan had the 2 Lords of Change?
Yes.
And he just made every invuln for the entire game.
That's so crazy.
What a wild game.
I just reposted that for everyone, actually. If you guys check it on the Facebook, and that was actually the thing that I posted with it. I said, how many 4+ invulns do you have to pass to survive like 3 Crimson Hunter Exarchs and this and this and this? That episode will answer that question. That was crazy. But it can happen. That's the thing is, like, we pretend like a 4-up is a 50-50, but there's so much variance.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 50-50, but it might not be over one game or one turn or one game, right? You can roll crazy high. And that's the game that we play, man. Love it or hate it. That's why freebooters are good. You just roll that 6 a couple times, you're good. Like, you think Shock Attack Gun breaks the game. Try fighting freebooters when they roll double 6s and shoot 3 times in one turn. You
gotta think, there's gotta be a 40k player out there somewhere who's just so lucky. He has no idea how to play. He just kind of bumbles around, but all he rolls is exactly what he needs. This man must exist.
Oh, it's for sure. He for sure exists. Because you think about it, like, in like, cosmically, in the universe, there's not enough variance in one lifetime of Warhammer play either, really. Mm-hmm. So you could have someone that just happens to roll really high, right?
Yeah. Like Brian.
Yeah. Well, Brian's a robot, and he calculates the perfect trajectory to throw a dice. The man is a monster. I'm going to leave that. No, I'm not, because we need to do the black.
Auto-pass morale for demons, I think, would be interesting, but it might take away from some of the other characters they have that give them auto-pass morale. Mm-hmm. The game is so complicated now that it's just really tough to make design changes to almost anything ever.
It's true.
Which is why we're starting to see them, like, when they experiment, they come up with these crazy cool new ideas that just break the game in half. Because, like, the design space, we're reaching the limits of what can be reasonably done within the design space of 8th.
It's absurdly complex. So difficult to adjust. Well, the demon leadership is a weird thing in particular. Because right now, it's not what it's been traditionally. You know, they have really low leadership.
Yeah, it's weird.
And in the past, it's been like, oh, it's instability, and it's this and that, and like now the only thing that makes them immune and come back is just the banner, really. Nothing to do with them innately, which is kind of weird to me.
Yeah, the fact that demons even have a banner is kind of weird to me.
It's super weird.
It sort of resembles some sort like organization, right? Like, we're gonna fight for a cause, which is not what I think when I think demons.
No, it's not. In 7th, been long enough that I might be misremembering this, but they were more like they were the loci of power, and so they would have different buffs associated with them, and they're sort of like channeling this power It wasn't like this, like, yeah, we can do this thing, or like the horn that makes them run faster. Like, what do they need to be inspired? Very strange. And again, it gets even weirder in Sigmar, because things like the banners and the horns, they're all free, right? Because you don't pay for war gear, and it's like you can have, there's 2 different types of banners, and they're just like per model. So it's like you can have 2 banners per 10 models. So when you have a blob of 30, you have like 6 banners and 3 musicians, because why not? Which makes it impossible to remove that buff. And they can come back if you roll a 1 on the battle shock, but they also have leadership 10 in that game.
Oh, wow.
They get both. It's
wow.
like, okay. Like those are both 2 different ways of working around this sort of issue of demons in the design space. But in that game, they're just like, yeah, what if you give them both? They're basically fearless and they can come back.
Which kind of devalues both of those things.
It does, yeah. It definitely does.
They're definitely not the sum of the parts there.
No.
Yeah, it's funny in that game though. Like the undead get inspired. They have banners and horns too.
Right.
Like, why would they care? Why would a skeleton care if there's a musician?
Exactly.
How does a skeleton even play a horn?
Except for the ghouls. Oh my god, how does a skeleton play a horn? You heard it first here, kids. I don't have an answer for you, Bridger.
Ghost lungs.
Ghost lungs. What about chat? Do you guys have an answer? Could be ghost lungs.
They blow the winds of death.
They use it as their anchor to the mortal realms, as I see it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's for the banners at least. And I guess like the instruments are this like influx of energy, or I don't know. It's kind of strange. This guy's
I got nothing.
along.
I don't know.
I'm so sad I didn't bring any blue green today for the teeth of this boy. That's tragic. But let's go ahead and mask out this and do some more orange.
Again, I think as a rule of thumb, we should just always have blue green in the studio.
I really do. It's hard because we have everyone has habits and things that they like to do, and I'm like, man, I could totally do like teal every show, but I can't.
People might get a little sick of that, yeah.
Yep. Not me though. All right, so in case you guys missed it earlier, this is another technique for applying very precise masking material. I grabbed it way too much. Let's just get more. I feel sad for the musician, so they pretend he's playing it. He's like, burr, 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 which you couldn't actually do because you didn't have lips.
I can't hear him at all.
Except, of course, the funny thing is, the undead that I would see the most having banners and musicians don't. And that's the ghouls. Because they're just demented, right? They're under this like curse that they think that they're noble courtesans and knights. So of course they would have banners and musicians, but the models don't.
No.
And I think that's mostly of like when the models were made, they definitely did not have that narrative.
Right, yeah.
That was one of the gems of like Sigmar when they re-released. They're like, this storyline is going to get like 1,000 times better. It's so cool.
I couldn't ever get into the ghouls. I don't know.
So the funny thing is, I don't like the models themselves, really.
Yeah.
I use them a lot if I swap their head, then I like them. So I use them for like tech thralls and cultists. But yeah, just as they are, I don't like them. I love the rest of that line. I love the zombie dragons and all that stuff, but the basic ghouls, yeah, same way.
Oh yeah, Terrorgeists are dope.
They're so good and cool. All right. I'm just pushing this one out because I know I'm gonna get some splatter from that airbrush. And actually, let's do this. Rather than having to jump between these 2 colors, I'm gonna apply this one here. And this is something that, again, earlier we saw a little catastrophe happen, and that happens from basically going too fast, right? So when you're at home and you don't have to do it on a camera to show, just take your time, set up multiple if you can, right? You don't always have all the masking material to do it, but like get 2 eggs of silly putty, treat yourself.
Ooh.
And you can mask off a few things, airbrush it, let it dry while you're working on another one. Patience is key, and generally, for me personally, I will almost just wait till the next day to do any washing. Just as a general rule, because I've messed up enough things by being impatient. It's tough because like we only have so much time in a day. We're like, okay, this is my hobby time. I'm gonna do it, but do try to resist if you can. Do try.
Moneybags Adrian, 2 silly putty eggs.
I know.
What is this, Christmas?
Right? Madness. I'm just applying this. These things I love just for sculpting in general because they have this soft rubber nub on one side, and then the other side is this little ball, which is like fantastic. This is like the key to all my like chaos green stuffing. Which is really great to work with. Cool. There we go. That's on the black, so again, I don't have to worry about it too much. If you're doing something like yellow on blue or something, you'd have to be a lot more careful. Get some white. So what's everyone working on right now? I know we heard from a few of you. Laughs and Bone Reapers. I haven't read enough about the Bone Reapers, to be honest.
Is that the new? That's the new faction?
Yeah, the Bone Daddies, as they call them. Know almost nothing about them. There's just so much content right now. I was actually just catching up on Sisters and how they work.
Yeah, Sisters, there's so much in that book.
Yeah. And
so few people have explored the codex.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a lot of unexplored space in that codex, and there's a lot of really cool armies that we'll see maybe after everybody's played Tabletop Sim for a few months.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't have to buy and paint all those really expensive old models.
They're so expensive. Well, the new ones are expensive. Oh my gosh. Like the Zephyrim, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like I was playing with Liz, I was like, cool, I want 30 Zephyrim. 6 boxes. $55 a box. Gonna have to wait.
And they're an army where you have to like go all out. Like if you want a unit, you have to have all of it.
That's what it felt like. Well, except for the Sisters, I like the basic Battle Sisters. I think they're great as big squads, but also just like you can get tons of battalions pretty cheap, and they're pretty decent. Like, you know, the Valor's Heart, just 5-man squads with a 2-up cover or 2-up save and cover is like pretty nifty. And it's easy to get a brigade, easy to get a battalion. You know, you have all these support characters that are like elites, elite choices filling that out. Fast Attack or Zephyrim, which are great. Seraphim, they're great. So I was really intrigued because I hadn't really sat down and looked at them because we didn't see them much, and then you know,
there's a lot in that book.
There's a lot. Gorgeous models too.
And it's mostly sort of innocuous little things. Like there'll be just a buff character who gives, you know, a couple little buffs. And you realize you can have 3 of them for basically no points.
Your
whole army can have all these buffs all the time. And it starts to add up. You're like, ooh.
The Imagifier literally costs as many US dollars as it does points. But yeah, they're really good. It's like, oh, this one makes me immune to -1 Ren, but if it's Valor's Heart, now I'm also immune to -2 Ren. And if anything gets past that, you basically have a 4 or 5 up invuln anyways, so...
Starts to get real saucy.
Oh, so good. Hans Yellow, I hate the Sisters just because the Exorcist. You mean because it's monstrous? I remember the first time I played that, it was like, oh, cool. He missed with a bunch, and I made some saves, only 2 went through. Well, this one's going to be 6 automatically. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I forget, he can still roll a 6 with the second dice, potentially. And so he's like, oh, 4 more damage. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was playing I was doing Possess Bomb, so I had the Plague Burst Crawlers, which are like pretty dang tough. Not tough enough. The way they survived the game was just by hiding from the Exorcist the whole time. Crazy.
Well, you still can give them the bad touch. Exorcists do not do well when they've been bad touched.
You can bad touch them, and they're not like invincible either.
That's a model that I wish they would make the rules fit the model better. Like it looks like a mortar, like it's firing out of the organ.
I thought it was weird that they didn't go that route either.
15 chrome colored XV8s. Whew.
Oh, nice. Yeah, see, I got a bit of orange spill over here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can.
Oh, I can see it, Adrian.
Hurts my soul. Maybe I had the pressure too high. Wouldn't have thought it would reach there. Oh well, we'll head back with some black and maybe some wash. Building 2 starter Warcry warbands. Just finished painting the Stormcast Eternal Vanguard warband. Oh, that's awesome. Warcry's a lot of fun. I would love to get that on the channel. I have my Raven
of the Games Workshop community. Like I have friends that I just play video games with, and they know that I do this, and they know I do 40K.
Yeah.
And they asked me about Warcry, and I was like,
really?
I don't know anything about that game, but I'm really fascinated that you asked me about it.
That's so funny. Wow. Because the kits aren't even like super easy to build either. It's basically a full model kit.
No, yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like the game a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. Love the models.
Kroot. Ooh, you can do some fun stuff with Kroot.
Yes.
Just not play the game.
Their bodies. I love the Kroot. I'm still holding my breath for the Kroot Codex.
I don't know if you've seen the there's like a fan vote for the worst model in 40K.
Oh yeah.
And Kroot made it to the finals.
Oh no.
I didn't see the results. Sorry if I spoiled that for anyone. But
yeah.
I think it was like a week ago. They made it to the finals at least.
I do have the results, but I won't spoil it here. No, I can't. I won't spoil it. It's good. I love that the whole thing. What a fun thing in the community, because it's also like it's not really like factually what is the worst unit in the game. It's what do we think the worst unit in the game is, which is fantastic, right?
The fact that the Demon Host made it so far was baffling to me, because the only time you'll ever run a Demon Host is with the character, the Inquisitor, that makes it like a god.
Right. That was the weird thing to me, because I saw that one too. I'm like, out of context, sure. It's also a very strange kind of corner case thing to pick.
Right.
Like,
They really scraped the bottom of the barrel for units there.
Like, do a lot of people really feel strongly about this? Well,
I guess if you're just looking at this and you go on Battlescribe and you pull up the data sheet for all these models,
yeah,
and you look at the data sheet for Demon Host, you're like, wow, this is garbage. Why would I pay any points for this ever?
Yeah.
Because you don't see that he's attached to an Inquisitor that like triples all of his stats.
Right. Exactly. And like, I don't know, at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's not good, but like, is it actually like
it's just funny.
Bad? You know, like, I don't know.
It's just interesting.
Very strange.
Maybe that's what Tabletop Sim is for. Maybe I should just put together like a goofy, silly army of stuff I've never played with before and will never play with.
Yeah.
Screw around.
I like it. That really is the best way to do it.
Get the Dreadnought Inquisitor guy.
Oh my.
He's pretty cool.
Karamazov?
Yeah.
So cool. I turned him into a Chappy Dread.
I have a friend who put him on a knight. He took Karamazov and like put it inside the head of a knight.
That's really cool. But this was to go with sisters, right?
Yeah.
See, it's perfect, like thematically.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great kit. So yeah, we've got some bleed through here. That's fine, because we have the black. This symbol is just so tiny. But at the end of the day, like, this lets me get that gradient. And so you can see we have a little spill over here. That's life. I'm not going to do the orange here today. I'm going to have to do more research, because I would hate to do it and then find out that I'm wrong. But like, they have fuel tanks and the little symbols on the side. I don't know. Weird. Weird thing. Yeah. Oh, hey, Dustin. Good to see you. Dustin runs a lot of local tournaments. He runs them and then I win them. Sorry, Dustin. So let's see. So I've showed most of the techniques. Like I said, I can keep painting. Let me know. Let us know if there's something you want us to show you, especially something that we have here. Definitely open while we have the stencils, while we have the masking materials. Let us know, because we can't always bring everything to the studio. So if there's something else that we haven't done, otherwise I'm just going to keep painting.
Contrary to popular belief,
yeah,
Adrian does not live in the studio. They
keep me chained here. The reason that we only do the top-down shots, you notice you never actually see my legs. Because they turned me into a servitor and pinned me to the ground. I just kind of rotate around it.
Alex, it was being held on the competitive 40K subreddit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a Redditor. It might be a scary place for you to go.
I think it was on the competitive 40K Facebook as well, somewhere. You'd have to find the post though. Yeah.
We are not based out of LA. We are based out of the Bay Area.
Yep.
Which is kind of like LA.
It's way cooler than LA.
Ha! Because LA is really hot. But yeah, so the finals were between Kroot Carnivores and the Monolith, I want to say? Or the Obelisk?
So it was Obelisk. But I thought it wasn't the Kroot in the finals.
Wasn't it?
I thought it was Demon Host.
Did Demon Host take over Kroot? Now I have to look it up.
Yeah, you might have to look it up.
I have to Google it.
Who was it? Someone was telling me earlier, and I heard the finals were the Necron Obelisk, which I think is a Forge World model. I don't know. Versus the Demon Host.
Yeah, that sounds like a Forge World model.
I like saw it and I read it as Monolith the first time, and I was like, huh, I don't know if it's the worst model. Like, no, the Obelisk. You've never heard of it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Fair enough. All right, well, I'm gonna do some more work on these scrap jets. Because they're so close to being done, I'd like to just get them finished. You can see these guys aren't even quite based yet. But if I can just get that done. So I have another little icon here. We'll go ahead and do that. And I have the front of these, which thematically should probably be done similar to the front of my jets, which all have like a different colored nose. My Daka jets have a white nose. But I haven't decided what color to do there. So we'll keep it in theme, and I'll do another masking with this stuff.
The cone? Are we doing the cone on the...
No, we're going to do the little skull here. Unless I have a strong vote on what the nose should be.
The nose cone.
Oh, the cone.
I'm telling you right now. White with a red tip. Like a missile.
That'd be cool. You know what else would be cool? Black and white spiral.
Oh, that would be cool too. That sounds like a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. I did it on one of my bombs. And never again.
You were correct. It was Demon Host and Obelisk in the finals. Kroot lost in the semifinals.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Kind of a bummer.
I feel like I could think of things that I would put like lower than Kroot. How many points is a Kroot model right now?
I want to say no. It's cheaper than 7. It's 5.
Yeah, that's like a body on the battlefield should be at least 4 or 5 points. They're not. Grots are stupidly good because they're 3 points. So like a guardsman you can't compare because they're one of the best units in the game, point for point.
Okay, so here's the problem. The unit size of 10, so you gotta buy 10 of them at a time. Which is...
Jay says they're 4 points.
It's a lot.
4 points?
Oh, they got lowered.
Like a warm body is worth 4 points.
Which still means that a unit of Kroot costs more than a unit of Fire Warriors. Because you can get 5 Fire Warriors, 7 points apiece. And...
yeah.
Kroot have terrible morale. So
true.
The extra bodies don't actually count as extra bodies because they end up just running away.
Well, they do for deep strike though.
Yes, they can screen really well, and that is the one valid argument for running Kroot, I think, ever at all.
To be clear, I'm not saying they're good. I'm just not sure if they're close to the worst.
I think that people voted it so highly because they want Kroot to be better. And that's fair. That's like a reasonable...
Oh yeah, no, like I said, I think this is also super interesting purely from like what people say or think. Kroot got lowered in chapter 8. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, they relatively recently got lowered. It's funny, there's a lot of units that are lowered, and I think people just haven't looked at them.
Yeah.
Like remember you and I were talking about killicans the other day, and I realized the answer. I was telling Bridger, I'm like, why are killicans like super exciting right now? A lot of the top orc players are excited about them. Like, they're cool. I love the models. But it's all the new things in conjunction with they actually got way cheaper than I thought. Like, they're down to 35 points a can, which is like cool. You get an invuln on them. They're T5. With the new stuff, you can make them one of them -1 to hit. So that starts to get pretty good value for what you're doing. And that's almost purely from a durability standpoint.
The Obelisk is not Forge World?
What?
That's a plastic kit?
Wait, is it... Do you have this Tombstalker in Forge World, though? This is my favorite. Is it the alternative Catan build, like when it's together?
Yeah.
Oh. Love that model.
It's the Catan. It's the Transcendent Catan without the Catan. They just like took them out.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow. And it has 4 of the Tesla... launchers, but they're like a bunch of strength 7, 0 AP, exploding shots. That's what, okay. Wow.
It's too bad we don't get to put the closed lampshade on the table.
Model's so cool. All right. Back to the white. Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. I played TTS game recently, running Gaz, playing him a bit less extreme than we ran him on the stream where we did all Goffs. Trying to see, like, realistically, what would I do for a pure tournament army? but still have gas. And so I ran 10 mech guns, 2 burner bombers, 60 boys, shock attack, 70 grots.
Yeah, burner bombers I think are going to show up in a lot of competitive orc lists. With the new strats, they just have too much utility.
They have a lot of utility. And on average, you're getting 20 mortal wounds out of them.
That's a lot.
Like if you told me it was a unit that you'd get to use for 1 turn for 100 and something points, I'd be like, I don't know, but 20 mortal wounds. And the thing is, they're really good against things that orcs struggle against. They're really good against Space Marines. They're really good against Sisters of Battle because they just do mortal wounds. And the more units that you have, the more effective they are. So the Burning Bombers, when I first read it, I was like, that's amazing, but it feels like a bit of a gimmick. But through playtesting and through just kind of deploying very cautiously, you know who's going to go first, so you know how to kind of hide your planes, keep them in force fields. They're actually pretty reliable, I'm finding.
It sounds like a fixed Death Strike missile.
Yeah.
Like it's what the Death Strike should be.
It is. The Ed Butt missile, flying Ed Butt missile.
Yeah.
Oi, they got a flying Ed Butt missile. I like it.
Oh, that's what I'm gonna play on Tabletop Sim. Death Strikes.
Death Strikes.
Just
like
all
it's
the
me or
Death
not. Oh, that's great. You know what you should totally play on that? Is your favorite list.
Triple Shadow Sword.
Yes.
I did play it and I got mollywomped by Blood Angels.
Oh,
it felt awful.
That would do it. That would do it. But it's perfect. 3 models. All the things I want to try, I have too many. I'm like, well, any kind of orc list is going to have at least 90 grots in it. You know, interested in sisters. Well, that's a lot of bodies too.
Oh, congrats, Levi. That's awesome.
What's up?
We gave Levi some advice last week about getting his significant other to get into 40K through painting. She said she already wanted to.
That's fantastic.
Now she's getting into it.
That's awesome, man. Very, very cool. Yeah, that's half of it. Just like finding what's interesting and then asking them. It's always surprising. That's very cool. All right, that orange is super not dry. Let me give that one a second.
Can't tear it off yet?
Well, I want to do some black before I take it off.
That's my favorite part, is when you take off the masking.
So satisfying, right?
It just looks great.
Especially when it's like a checker or something. It's like, ah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Do I have any more here? Oh gosh. So this is another. Earlier when I was saying you want to make sure that you attach the bombs or missiles later on, this is why. So I did do these, and so I already have a bunch of bleed through from the orange onto the blue. I have to retouch, and then I also have the icons on the wings that basically impossible to paint now.
Yeah, you can't.
So
can't get back in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
You could snap it off. Didn't use plastic glue, did you?
I did. Or no, I did not. I used the one that's easy to snap. So yeah, I might do that. I might end up doing that. This one turned out a bit better. Got a side icon here to do. Here, these boys have been testing out a lot, and I'm back to being on the fence with them.
They're the fighty one, right?
Yeah, the fighty one. They fight twice, but they only have weapon skill 4. So in like 4 or 5 attacks. So like there's a surprising amount of variance in it, where it's like I can totally kill small squads. I mean, each hit is basically a power claw.
Yeah.
But like I'll also be like, cool, 2 scouts gonna go in there and like wipe them out, and then like it didn't happen, right? So I think if you run them with Gaz, one is good because he's giving them the rerolls, and then also the Wah Banner just to hit on 3s. I think is really nice. But I've definitely not given up on them. You need learning how to use them. But the double fight is crazy good, just for getting motion, like movement out of them.
Templar Warden. That is an interesting question. So Templar Warden asks, for a new player, how many games do you expect to lose before you start to get the hang of the game?
Great question.
I think it depends a lot on the person and the army and the play group.
Yeah, the play group is huge.
So maybe a more casual player isn't super interested in winning, or that sounds a little weird. Maybe that's not their number one priority, right?
Right.
Maybe they got into the hobby because they like the models, they like painting, they like the hobbying aspect, doing modifications and stuff. Maybe winning's not their top priority, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you really do want to win and you're losing a lot of games, It might be who you're playing with. Maybe you have bad matchups. Maybe your army's really hard. There could be a lot of things. But I wouldn't say there's like a number of games that you should lose. Like there's no, all right, you've lost 50 games, now you can really play 40K.
Right.
It's just a process.
Yeah, I think the play group is the number one. You know, whenever because it's like hard enough to already learn the basics. You just can't really interpolate between that and all the crazy tricks and sort of meta things that are going on. But not everyone does that, right? So if you're playing against someone that just wants to go super hard, you know, they're not necessarily doing anything wrong, but it makes it much tougher to learn. And I've seen that happen to people. It's like they're just trying to play the game, but it is tough.
There's so many layers to understanding this game.
Yes.
Like the majority of players, I would say, don't actually fully understand and play by the rules correctly.
True.
And it's just like there's a lot of rules in this game, and they're spread across a lot of books, and there's a lot of misconceptions about how the game is supposed to be played. So like just the first layer is play correctly. And then after that, there's like play correctly and efficiently. And then after that, there's play correctly and efficiently and understand what your opponent's trying to do.
Yep.
And then preventing what your opponent's trying to do. Like there's so many layers to getting better at this game. Don't sweat it. You know, like it takes years to really get good at this game. And you're only ever going to be as good as your best opponent.
Ooh, so good.
Playing Brian really got me into competitive 40K.
That's why you're a monster.
Yeah, I lost to him so many times. I got so frustrated. The first time I beat him was a legitimate celebration.
That's so funny. I played for a long time competitively before I started winning ever. Like, I think it's important to set your, like at a tournament, right? I think it's important to set your expectations and give yourself goals. So like literally at first, I just wanted to win a game and not be embarrassed and get the last person at the tournament, right? And that was my goal. And then it was 2 games. And then it was winning, or then it was not losing a game. And then it was cool. I need to get as many points while I'm not losing any games. And it's hard to remember that. Like you just kind of, you build up to that, right? And it's like, oh man, I'm so bummed. Like, wait, I didn't lose a game. Like I didn't do badly. I'm trying to do more, and that's fine. It's hard because we all want to win. We all want to have fun, and keep that in mind. But definitely be patient. And yeah, personally, if you want to be very competitive, if you want to be a really good player, find the toughest opponents you can. And that doesn't mean find
the spikiest opponent.
Yeah, don't find like mean people or like people that are trying to just do getchas and be rude. That doesn't make a good player. But players that they're just good and they'll play tough things. There are some people that think that they're good, but they're really just bullies.
A good player will happily teach you how to play better.
Yep.
And they may not be pampering about it. They may say, you know, you made some really obvious mistakes. You shouldn't have done these things. They're not trying to be mean. Sometimes they're just trying to teach you the game. Yep. But a lot of bullies won't do that. They'll just say you suck.
Yeah.
And then they'll walk away.
Well, yeah, just shot you off the board. Like, or they won't even see it half the time. I've seen that. Where it's like, oh yeah, if I went first, totally would have won. It's like, well, or you would have lost or whatever. And they're not open to new ideas. So it's important to just kind of be open to that.
Oh, look at that. Look at that reveal. Shing! Could you pull that back a little bit? Oh, man.
Yeah. I definitely miss him around the edge, but that's fine. This is also, again, battle damage is your friend. If that's the style you're going to go for, it makes things a lot easier. So I actually have some of this symbol that's still in that teal. That's going to be scratch paint. Get some silver on there. No problem. Also washes. Lots of washes. Yeah. I'm super happy with that. All right, so we're getting close to the end of the show. Just a couple things to recap. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and checking out our stencils episode. This is something that people have been asking for, and we kind of just had to build up to it, getting the airbrush set up, and then was really happy to do this. First of all, you can get all the stencils on my store, which is in the link. And stenciling is all about masking out what you want from what you don't want, right? And it's important to keep that in mind when you're working from different layers. As always, make it easier for yourself. There's no cheating in painting, right? So If you can, you're going to work from dark colors up to light colors because it's easier to fix those dark colors afterwards. Be patient with stencil. Let things dry. And don't be afraid to apply different types of masking techniques. You can do a stencil on one part, silly putty another, and then tape another. We did that a couple times just today. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to try stuff. That's really the number one takeaway, I would say. Yeah. So we have just a couple minutes left. Do you guys have any final questions before we close up?
We have some questions here. Your female farseer on bike. How did you do that?
Yeah. So let's see. So that is the base is the Harlequin bikes. I got a bunch of bits from that when bits were a thing on eBay because I love that. And the main body is actually from the Mortis engine from Age of Sigmar, and they have one of the builds has the like vampire ladies on top of it. And for me, I have that as my night haunt, so I only needed one build with one vampire lady. So I had these other ones. So I have basically the legs are the kind of side saddle for that. The body was kind of a mix of a Dark Eldar chest and also just Dire Avenger backpack, and a bit of green stuff to help kind of mold that into the arms and things, which are from the vampire. And the head's an actual farseer, so it was kind of a mismatch of different kits. And the main thing was I really wanted to use that actual helm so that you would recognize it as a farseer right away. So great question, thank you.
Levi, this is a good question. How long should your games take? Longer for Thousand Suns, Psych, or Heavy Armies? I do definitely think that armies that play every phase are going to take longer to finish the game. Yeah. But time constraints are between you and your opponent unless you're at a tournament. So honestly, however long it takes you to finish a game, that's how long it takes you. So long as your opponent's okay with that. At a tournament, we try to keep games under 2 hours and 45 minutes, usually closer to 2.5 hours. That's really tough though. Like it takes some training to get people up to finishing a game in 2.5 hours.
You have to play very consciously fast. I think if we play a pretty casual game, we can end up being 3 or 4 hours just because just conversation. Like if we didn't try to speed it up, in a tournament, that's the goal. But yeah, it's whatever works for you guys. You know, if you need to take a break, have dinner, get some drinks, play again. You know, that's when I visit my family. That's how we do it, and that's all good. But yeah, your psychic phase will get faster. Brian did he timestamped our Orc versus Thousand Suns battle, and he was very proud about the fact that my terms were much longer despite him having Thousand Suns. So there you go. It can happen.
Thanks, Paulos. That's really cool.
No, that's great. And that's a big idea, right? We just want to hang out, talk with you guys, work on stuff. Let us know what you're doing. What is the worst official scheme? Oh, that's so hard.
There's some really bad ones for successor chapters where they do quartering, but they do it with like just horrendous colors.
Yeah.
I don't know, one of those.
Those are pretty bad. I don't know, actually.
In terms of like original chapters, Grey Knights I think are pretty lame. They're just gray.
I think one of the ones that was bad until I saw it done well was the Emperor's Scythes. And that's the yellow chest and then like yellow down. So it looks like it's like a Speedo or like a diaper because the legs are black, or like even the crotch plate is yellow. And it just looks super weird for me. But then I saw a couple people, especially in person, that did it well, and I was like, okay, that looks really good. But I'll be honest, my first response was like, just looks like they're wearing not a Speedo, but like a one-piece swimsuit, right? That's just like top to bottom. Super weird. Yeah. Oh, man. Awesome. It's great to hear, Eric. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, Matt, 7th edition Psychic was crazy long. So I missed that, but I don't. Awesome, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys are making progress with your work at home. Have fun, enjoy, do your own style, take what you learned here and apply it for your own armies. As always, we do want to see your stuff, so you can post up on our Facebook page, send it to us, share it to us. We have Instagram, especially nowadays since we aren't doing the live battles currently. We're trying to do more works in progress, not just this, but kind of throughout the week. So definitely check those out, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Stay safe out there.